That explosive government watchdog report says the president broke the law, overriding Capitol Hill by freezing that military aid to Ukraine, pointing out he cannot substitute his own policy priorities for those that Congress has enacted into law.
45 years here, I've never seen anything like this.
But a senior administration official describes the findings as overreach. The military aid is part of what Democrats have called a quid pro quo, accusing the president of using it as leverage to get Ukraine to open investigations into his political rivals, like the Bidens. A key player in that push was Lev Parnas, Rudy Giuliani's right-hand man in Ukraine, explaining in a bombshell interview with MSNBC's Rachel Maddow.
It wasn't just military aid, it was all aid. Basically, the relationships would be sour, that we would stop giving him any kind of aid, unless that there was an announcement made. Well, several things. There was several demands at that point. The most important one was the announcement of the Biden investigation.
Parnas says the vice president, the attorney general, even President Trump were all in the know, though he did not mention any direct conversation with the president.
President Trump knew exactly what was going on. He was aware of all of my movements. I wouldn't do anything without the consent of Rudy Giuliani or the president.
But the president has denied any wrongdoing, and today denied even knowing Parnas.
Well, I don't know him. I don't know Parnas, other than I guess I had pictures taken, which I do with thousands of people. Don't know what he's about. Don't know where he comes from. Know nothing about him.
Parnas also implicating other top officials.
You have reason to believe that Vice President Pence was tasked at that meeting with getting President Zelensky to announce investigations of Joe Biden specifically.
Yes.
Mr. Barr knew about that.
Mr. Barr had to have known everything. I mean, it's impossible.
The Justice Department says that's 100% false, and the vice president's office points to witness testimony that contradicts Parnas, adding he will say anything to anybody who will listen in hopes of staying out of prison. Parnas has been indicted, accused of breaking campaign finance law, arrested this fall at a Washington airport with a one-way ticket out of the country.
This man lacks all credibility.
Now it's an open question on whether Parnas could testify in the Senate impeachment trial.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.